the relationship between the different parts of yourself. So as you're in this position to scan, where does your attention tend to go? What parts of yourself come more readily to your image here? So what's the shape that you make? Where are your heels in relationship to your ankles and your toes? Where's the weight on your knees? So does one knee feel more under you or one a little bit more out to the side, which is probably going to tell you something about where your head is in space. So does your weight feel more on your knees or your toes? And how do your hips, where are your hips in relationship to your knees and your feet? Are they directly above your knees or behind your knees? What shape is your pelvis making? What shape is your spine making? Where would be the highest point of your back and where would be the lowest point of your back? What shape does the front of you make? Where are your shoulder blades sitting in relationship to your chest? And where do your shoulders sit in relation to your shoulder blades? And just as the force from your knees goes up into your hips and then distributes through to your pelvis and your lumbar spine, or you could think the opposite, that the weight of my lower torso and my pelvis is being distributed down through my knees. How does the weight from your wrists and hands go up through your elbows and through your shoulders and through to your shoulder blades and your collarbone? And from there through to your sternum and your ribs. And then simply shift your weight a little bit forward and back. And notice, do you put any up, down into that as you go forward and back? What happens in how your pelvis moves over your hip joints? How your shoulder blades move in relationship to your chest and your shoulders? And then think about if you were going to put the top of your head on the floor. Don't do it, but think about it. What would make it easier? Would it go best with your feet flexing or your feet extending? Would that influence where the top of your head was going to go to the floor? So not only the position that it might go into on the floor, but also how you could feel that your neck was organising above your head on the floor. Just really feel we've been doing all these movements about flexion, extension of your feet, feeling how that influences what might happen in your low back and your hip joints. So just really feel, what is that building up, that relationship in you, that there's something about what I'm doing with my feet, taking them to a standing position that might influence where my head goes. And then could you deliberately make the choice that I'm going to have my feet flexed as I put my head down? And put your head on the floor and find that little isosceles triangle. So that you don't lose your feet. Your feet are still in your image. So do it a few times. Really find, how does that tucking of your toes under, where does it keep your pelvis? Does it keep your pelvis more back in space to have your toes under? What would your hips do when your feet are flexed to take your head to the floor? Would they go backwards or forward? What would be the easiest way for you to get your head to the floor? So these little nuances, if you can understand it, maybe not clearly, but at least investigate it in yourself, it starts to build up a more complex or a more multi-layered idea of how you could have more options, more clarity. Okay, so once you've got your head on the floor, take a moment just to look through, literally see with your eyes, where's your head in relationship to your knees and your feet? Does it look as if it'd be on a line that's exactly through the middle? Or does it look to be a little bit more to the left or the right? You've got a line. It's really helpful for you. It's very helpful, Carol. Oh. So just let it be wherever it is at the moment. And this is a really important thing to notice, because many of us have got a really strong bias to one leg, and you'll see it absolutely in where we put our head. So wherever your head is at the moment, still with your feet in that flexed position, with your feet tucked under, with your feet tucked under, with your feet tucked under. I think you can get by all my repetition that there's something important about having your feet tucked under. And very gently and slowly lift one knee, just a little. How do you begin to organise it? Your arms are in an isosceles triangle with your head. Where are your elbows? And how do you allow that movement to go all the way through you? In your pelvis, up through your low back, your middle back, your upper back, through to your shoulders, to your head. The smaller you can make the movement, the better, so that you can feel right from the moment I start, everything is ready to go. Everything is ready to be involved in my image. And just one knee, one knee. Keep it small. Where does your weight shift? What do your hands do? And begin to feel. Don't lift your... Simon, please get your toes tucked under. And don't lift your foot. Where do your elbows go? Can you allow your elbows to respond to that? And you'll probably find the more your elbows can come in a little bit more by your side, then maybe one elbow goes down a little bit more toward the floor. Maybe one goes up, who knows? But something can happen in your arms, even though they're taking weight. And then you choose the other knee to lift. And you're really using this as a way to feel differences. Not that you can do it, but what do I organise differently? You know you can do it because you've all done it in previous ATMs. What do I do differently right from the beginning? Is one hip clearer in your image than the other about your hip lifting your pelvis high? Maybe one side, your belly tends to tighten more than the other. Or your neck tightens. So you're really comparing and contrasting here. We are totally in process here. Totally in you being able to be really interested in process. Where could I soften a little bit more? Where could I breathe a little bit more easily? Shape do I make through me? Especially in that area between my shoulder blades, area at the base of my neck. What does it do there? Does it rotate? Does it? And that's going to be dependent on what your pelvis does, how your knee lifts. Have a rest. So this is, you've already done this movement. How do we go back now and really refine it? Really open up the world in there. Look for more of the detail. You've sort of got a little bit more of the big picture. I'm lifting my knee. Now you're filling in detail. How do I do that? And really notice, is that a process that makes sense for you to come back and really look for the detail? Or are you someone who likes to sort of move on pretty quickly to the bigger, going toward where we've already been? One of the things that, as I've taught this series more, it's such a wonderful opportunity to... There's some movements we do where you feel like you're moving into a void, where it's really uncertain. So what do you do when you really challenged, and challenge is moving into a void, moving a bit into the unknown. And how is it? By finding this space in ourselves where we've challenged ourselves, we've done the movement a few times. What happens now if I go back and refine? But now I'm not in a challenging position. I'm really staying within what's possible for me, what's comfortable for me, and I'm going to make it more comfortable, easier. Okay. Back on your hands and knees again, with your head on the floor. Again, take your time to get in that position. And this time, again, notice where your head is in relationship, and all you people with stripes, it is much easier. Where's your head in relationship to your knees and your feet? And this time, shift it just a little bit to the right. Just a fraction. Lift your head and move it to the right, so that as you're looking through yourself, you can see you're a little bit closer to your right knee than the left. Just a fraction. And see, how does that influence how you lift one knee or the other? Go slowly. You're looking for detail here. So it's not that you can lift your knee, but that you're simply using this lift of your knee to inform you about how does the position of my head make a difference to how I organise myself. And then take it a little bit to your left. How does the position of my head, of knowing where the middle is, influence my organisation? So that you can begin to see, if someone always has their head a little to the left or the right, the influence that's going to make on which leg is easier to lift. They don't even know that that's how they're organised. And then come back to the middle again and try it again there. So there's been lots of ATMs where we've really explored this importance of where your head is in space, the freedom of your head. And then again, this is your direction. Doesn't mean you have to do it straight away. It's a direction. That's what you're investigating. How do you self-direct? Could you find a way that both knees? And really feel. Do one at a time first. Could you find a way that one can lift? You're not up on your elbows. Kylie, down, 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 down. I know, but this is process we're in, yeah? He's screaming at people nearly by this stage. Not that he's put this much detail into Amherst, but this is about the process. Pulled right back. It's not about that you know you can do the movement. It's about finding how I can make it even easier. How you can be really interested in, is one leg different than the other? How do I organise one side of me compared to the other side? Not that I can do it, but there's a much richer world in there. What do I do differently? Really feeling as you lift one and the other. What does your pelvis do? Where do your hips go? And again, can you begin to find this way that you're thinking of your pelvis lifting higher? So that you can find a way that you can gradually straighten your legs so that they're not pushing back, but they're pushing up. Your legs are pushing your pelvis up. So it's a really big self-direction. These really basic orientations in space. What's the difference between, and you know, those of you who are doing it, can you really feel the difference if you think of your legs are helping push your pelvis up, or if you're pushing your legs backwards? So this isn't to do really with, well, it is to do with organisation, but it's an orientation. It's really understanding an orientation in space. And then you can begin to walk your feet a little bit toward your pelvis, but again, slowly. How do I do it 1 foot so that I'm up on my toes? And I'm gradually bringing my knees closer and closer to my elbows. And where do my elbows need to be that would make it easier to bring my knees closer to my elbows? Do I want my elbows way out to the side? And rest on your back. And again, really feeling the influence of those movements on your lying. Anything changing in your breathing? And the length of your neck. Where your shoulders are. Maybe this sense of space in your upper torso. Your neck. Do you ever think of your neck having space? Sorry, Yona?
When I think about it, do I know it?
Yeah. What's the shape of your neck? How long is it at the front and the back? How wide is it? How deep is it? Bend your knees. And really lightly lift one leg and drop it. And feel that your pelvis is going to lift on that side. So as you drop it, your pelvis hops up into the air. Your whole pelvis pops up into the air. And really feel what happens all along the back of you. As your pelvis pops up into the air, as you drop one leg, how far up you do you feel those extensors that run along the back of your spine? How do they engage? In your lower back, in your middle back, way up into your upper back, so that the more you lower, the more you drop that leg and lift your pelvis, you feel again that idea of the other day that your chin comes towards your chest and your chest comes towards your chin or your sternum. So how do you get that sense? Do you remember what we were doing the other day? And then do it on the other leg. And again, really feel what's different. And can you really feel if the leg that you're swinging is really dropping and soft and passive, that your knee will probably bend a little bit and your foot will come a little bit more towards your buttock. So with one leg then the other, you're really seeing how high can I pop my pelvis off the floor. Staying within what's easy. And can you really feel, because you're doing it with one leg, that one side of your torso works a little bit differently to the other? Or have you got an image that my whole torso is still working as one thing? So begin to see if you can pick that up, that one side of you is going to work a little bit more. So your pelvis will pop up, but does one side pop up a little bit more than the other? Or is it popping straight up? So how could you get a feeling that because you're doing one leg, this is going to ask for maybe a little bit of rotation with your pelvis as you do it? What do your shoulder blades do? And then could you do both together? But feel free to do it in sequence, that you can lift one leg, then the other, and one leg goes down and the other leg goes down. No? Because you'll love to do it both together if you really love this pattern of movement. So could you find that you can sequence it, that your pelvis has got this ability also to sequence? That you've got this ability to feel that there could be more an asymmetrical movement here. That I can lift one and lower one faster than the other, and I can, so that there's a sequence. They both don't have to hit down at the same time. Pause again. So what do you think would be necessary on, if you were observing someone, what do you think would make this easier? Obviously, if they're involving more of themselves, that's a given. Okay, swing your legs above your head and hold your pelvis up with your hands. And notice, how do you have your legs? Are they straight? Are they bent? Do you have them above your head? Just notice where you have them. And then could you begin to swing one leg a little bit up and one leg a little bit down? So your pelvis is basically staying where it is in space. And can you begin to feel how one side of your torso is going to make one shape while the other does another one? So your torso has to be doing two things here, doesn't it? If one leg's going above your head, it's making one shape on that side compared to the leg that's going down below your pelvis. But there's going to have to be something happening in the middle of you. Your pelvis is going to have to turn a little bit. But it's not just about hold. Feel the difference if you do it and you hold your pelvis in one orientation. Huh? What happens to the movement if you don't let your pelvis move? Can you feel how one direction is going to get easier, but you're not going to be able to get the other? And then allow your pelvis to move. And feel, what's that got to do with the freedom in your upper torso? But you can really feel one. And the more you can keep your legs bent, probably the better as you do this. So, crazy position like this, and we're still asking that you're not going to hold in one position, that you've still got options in there. You've still got possibilities of feeling your torso changing its shape. Come back to lying. Don't worry, you're going to get many more times to change this, to try this. So what's this got to do with doing a headstand? We keep going from one to the other, one to the other. Sort of alternating of the flexors and the extensors, but not just in flexion and extension, but there's a bit of rotation, a little bit of side bending, all sorts of things going on to help inform, to help wake parts of us up in our self-image. So what feels woken up in your self-image at the moment? And again, your breathing can often be a powerful indicator of that. Okay, back on your hands and knees. Again, just go back and flex, extend your feet a little bit more. And again, just feel which one would help you to put your head, what you would feel would be in a better position to take weight on your head. Which one just feels it would organise you a little bit more easily? Are you starting to feel some connection through there? And this time, with your toes tucked under, could you interlace your fingers and place your head on your interlaced palms. So you're going to place your head on your interlaced palms. Just have your elbows wherever you want them to be. You might change it a little bit as we go on. But your head's resting on your palms. Top of your head, not your forehead, Glenn. The top of your head on your palms. On your palms. On your palms. So the top of your head. Top of your head. That's it. Can you feel that's different? And rock your head a little bit there over your palms. Gently, gently, gently. Rock your head. So your chin's coming a little bit closer to your chest. Your chin is going away from your chest. And you're gradually going to refine this until you begin to feel that this is mainly a movement of my head and my neck. So that my pelvis isn't pushing this movement, my legs aren't pushing this movement, my belly's not pushing this movement. But you can begin to feel how the curve of your neck, while your head's got a little bit of weight on it, you can find a way to find the freedom. I know when I do this, it's really interesting. I always have to take my rings off. How do you find that ability to move your chin closer to your chest and away from your chest? And feel, is one of those easier as you're rocking your head over your hands? And more you're feeling that you don't need to shift your weight very much. But you're really finding this movement of your head and your neck. So you can really feel your cervical spine changing its shape. Interlace your fingers the other way. Just see, does that influence how you do this movement? Really finding your neck, your chin away from your chest, your chin towards your chest. And as much as you can, there's no movement of your pelvis forward and back over your knees. It could move, the possibility is absolutely there, but you're just keeping it a little bit more still. You're just stopping it, but not with muscular work to stop your pelvis moving, but simply with your thinking. How do you find this freedom of your neck? Come back to your isosceles. No, don't. Stay there. Stay there. And very gently now in that position, could you find a way to, your toes are under, Silvana, your toes are under. Could you find a way to lift one knee just a little bit? And could you still rock a little bit forward and backward on your head? Could your head still be really free? And how do you organise to lift one knee here? Feel you've got to find length in your belly, or softness in your belly is probably a better word. And then the other knee, gently feeling the process. How do I keep this ability for my neck to stay soft and long? Again, we've done this in how do I remember so many lessons we did a few segments ago. This ability for my arms to stay soft and long and not interfere with the movement of my middle. Now we're finding how your head and neck can stay soft and long. Maybe you could lift both knees a little bit, just a little, one then the other. And that you could still rock your head. And your breathing's easy. Shoulders are free. So that, of course, the muscles are still working to support you, but they're not fixing you. And you're not lifting your pelvis high to do this. This is not about lifting your pelvis high. Not about lifting your pelvis high. So before we've been keeping your head in place. So maybe let your head rock this time as you lift your pelvis. To let those knees lift a little bit. So where would your head rock to straighten your knees? Would it rock back? Would it rock forward? Try not to lift your pelvis high. This is not about lifting your pelvis high. We've changed the direction here now to rocking your head a little bit forward and back. How do you distinguish between these different orientations in your head and your neck? Finding that softness in your neck. Okay. Take your hands out and put them in line with your head in a push-up position. And again, gently lift one knee, the other knee, and let your head roll forward a little bit. So if you're sort of going to walk, roll over the top of your head. So it's not taking your pelvis high. We've changed the direction. Do you know we've changed the direction? So then if you lifted both knees and kept your head rolling forward, where might you go? Don't force it. It's not about a headstand, Kylie. It's not. It's not about taking your pelvis high. It's not about taking your pelvis high. Maybe it's about a forward roll. And again, you know, Feldenkrais's ability, you know, to keep changing the plan. Not keep changing the plan, but you think you've got what we're doing. Let's put another option in. And you would only do this if this was incredibly easy. Maybe there's a way with both knees up, you could just roll over the top of your head. Something about how your chin would come to your chest and your chest would come to your chin. Chin would come to your chest so that there's no push. Okay, have a sit. So this is where when I'm talking about you going into the unknown. Does that sort of make a bit of sense? It's like you're not really, you know what I'm saying. I'm saying this might lead into a forward roll. But it's like you're in there going, oh, I'm not sure about this. It's not making sense yet. And that's what's important. You engaging in what do I do at that point? Do I go back to something that I think it's really about? So let's finish on your hands and knees and just see if that has had any impact on your ability to walk your legs towards your hands. So you're back in your isosceles triangle again. See, did that make any difference? Clarifying that movement of your head, that ability of how your chest and your chin need to understand each other in a very particular way. And there's something very much about learning that you can't do this in a rounded shape. So as you get your pelvis higher, then you start to walk your legs. All your back muscles have to do something here. Your belly has to get longer. Again, it's just to see, did that make any difference? Knowing that your head's free, can you still rock your head a little bit? Is it still free? You haven't loaded all the weight and just pushing it really hard into one place. Let it down, come up to standing. Still, does anything feel different in your neck after that? In your upper torso? Doing all those crazy movements. And what influence has that had on knowing where the top of your head is? Allowing for some of you more freedom through your hip joints and your bellies. By getting into these really different orientations and about learning how does weight bearing, how does learning how to take weight influence me? Have a walk and we'll have a break. And so I'd suggest this is a good time for the first group. First and second groups get together and work out where you're going to be in the room.
There's 1, 2, 3.